Hello and welcome to another episode of our Brand Couch. Today I'm here with Nada Ahmed, which is now a founder of her own company called Agile Leadership, but also has a history of working in digital transformation and innovation in large corporate players. But maybe Nada, you want to say hi and explain who you are.
Hi Robert, thank you for inviting me here. So as you said, I have recently just started my own company called Agile Leadership, the idea is really to build off of my 15 years of experience within corporate working in the oil and gas and maritime industry and helping these companies innovate and deal with the big technology and digital shifts that we're seeing in the industry. So that's really been my passion, is building teams around that, looking at what are our market trends, what are the technology trends that are going on around in the industry, and how can we keep our companies still ahead of the curve.
So, which is cool, but you have been working with some of the largest brands in that industry, right? You've been working with DNV-GL, you've been working with Aker Solutions recently, Kongsberg. So those are big names, especially in Norway, right? Can you give us a bit of an inside view of how these companies work and if there's any major differences?
Yeah, I mean, all three of them, one thing that is really similar is that they're very Norwegian.
Okay.
But at the same time, they all work in a very global scale, serving oil and gas and the maritime industry worldwide. How I see Kongsberg and Aker Solutions perhaps a little bit different than DNV is that they're hardcore technology companies. So they have products that they're selling out to customers, whereas DNV it's more of a company that's built around its people and the competence. It's an advisory. So I think especially when we talk in terms of brand, for the technology companies, it's really about their brand quality, how they perform. Whereas for DNV, brand plays in some way a lot bigger role in terms of the effort you put as a company to position yourself as this quality insurer, this company that manages risk for you. So I think in terms of what I've learned the most about communication and brand has really been the time I spent at DNV, because I think that company was quite advanced in its thinking around positioning itself.
So when we talk about sort of this B2B sphere, right, where branding is very often associated with the shoes or the tennis rackets or the whatever else we associate with brands, but I think interestingly the B2B space has increased their awareness of branding. You've been working with transformation and innovation. What is the role of it? I mean, how do you experience in the places where you worked? How does brand play a role? Maybe it's within leadership, or how do you see that work? Because one thing is the company itself, but like within that sort of vertical that you worked in, how do you see that influencing your daily life, really?
Yeah, so I believe that over the past decade, branding has really taken a different turn than it had, 20, 30 years ago for a lot of these industrial companies. Before, they had to be more concerned about sort of individual business-to-business relationships. But now with social media, they also actually have to care about not only sort of the businesses, but the customers that they serve and their customers. The brand is so much bigger. So in some way, it's becoming more and more important even for these industrial players than it has before. And in terms of staying relevant, staying competitive, and that as we see now, the pace of innovation is unprecedented. It's faster than we've ever seen before, as technology is developing at a really fast pace. And for these companies to stay relevant, they have to keep up with the pace, and they have to show themselves as being these innovative companies, that they're still relevant for their customers, because as we see in many other industries, a smaller startup can come and disrupt their business or suddenly take over the market, because now the technology is available for them to do it.
Yeah. And that's, I think, leads nicely into the role of leadership, right? How do you see that change over the years?
So what we've seen now is that previously the brands that we knew, the big brands like Coca-Cola, you didn't know who was the CEO, who were the leaders at the top. But because of the influence of social media, now often we have these brand ambassadors, either someone in the leadership or someone who works with that company who's coming more and more to starting to represent that brand. So there's definitely that shift that's going on that I'm sure that you guys are seeing in your work too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, we see, and it's easy to talk about because everyone knows it, right? But we see it, for example, Tesla is a fantastic example of that, right? We have both a very inspirational but also a very, call him edgy CEO, and Elon Musk, who's also the founder or co-founder really of the company. But he's doing things that are not always in the best interest of the shareholders, right? And that makes it extremely difficult to navigate as a brand ambassador, as you call them, or as a leader in the space today, because you never really know, right? It's like it's really difficult to know when to attach yourself to a brand and when you're not. When you're not a person like Elon Musk, who does essentially whatever he wants, clearly, right? So, but linking over to what you do now, because you went from call it a safe corporate haven, right? With very interesting job descriptions and really being in the center of change, to starting your own company, which is called Agile Leadership. Tell us a bit more about why you made that decision and what it means to you. Yeah,
definitely. I think I came to a space where, as I said, I've been working in the corporate setting for 15 years, and I've always seen myself as that person, breaking through the glass ceiling, climbing the ladder. And then something happened. I think the pandemic probably had something to do with it, which has been a time of deep thinking and awakening for a lot of people in terms of where they are in their lives. And for me, it was that moment, and I call it the midlife awakening, where I was like, you know what, I know what I can contribute with. I know my value now. And perhaps now is the best time for me to take some bigger risks in life, because corporate is in some way a very safe option.
Yep.
Because you have that monthly paycheck coming in. It's kind of like that drug that keeps you from stepping outside of corporate. And so I felt like it's still relatively less risky for me to take that risk now than 10 years from now, to actually see if I can disrupt myself and apply all this that I apply in corporate in terms of innovation and transformation. Can I reinvent myself? And in some ways, one of my mentors said to me, it's about kind of stop thinking about building my CV, but building my career. So,
nice.
So I think that was really the thinking, was can I use all these things on myself? Yeah.
Okay, now you said so many things that I have to go back to, and I'm going to write down because I'm going to use them later. Midlife awakening, love that. Disrupt yourself and building your own career, not your CV, right? Those are, I think, just those 4 sentences, or 3 really, are already key takeaways from this talk. But like, the role, again, we're going back to brand, right? Because obviously this is a brand couch, so we need to talk a bit about that. So how do you see the difference now? I mean, you come from large corporate brands where everyone is sort of expected to represent, right? You have some leaders that may or may not be very visible in the media, and you have tons of marketing and PR teams that do their job every day to keep that brand at a certain level and establish that trust, what we're talking about, right? How do you do it now? Like, where's the difference? How do you see it? Like, because now it's you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I started building my brand, and it wasn't intentionally thinking about building my brand, but I started becoming more active on social media probably 4 or 5 years ago, when I saw the power of social media. And that was also a time when I kind of realized I actually am bringing a lot of value. There are people listening to me, and there are these platforms available where you can reach out to more people than you can just focusing on leadership within your own company. And if you want to create more impact, like for me, it's always been really important to empower more women, empower people of diverse backgrounds, to show them that it's possible to have their voices heard and be in a lot of these relatively male-dominated spaces. That if I can already start serving as that role model. I don't have to wait, right? And I can use these platforms to start speaking because I have a voice that matters, and I can create a following around that. So I have done that, but it's always been connected to a big corporation, a big brand that comes with it. And I think now it's me discovering for myself, what does it mean kind of standing on my own brand? So when it helps, I've already put myself out there and I have some kind of a following. But then it's about understanding how do actually people perceive me? because I might be,
and then build on that,
and build on that, you know, and because I might be putting on a lot of different messages out there, and I want some of them to resonate more with my customers. But it's really having those dialogues with your customers and then trying to see, am I putting the problems that I want to solve for them in the right words so that it would actually resonate with them.
In the right context, right? So, but you're obviously, I mean, you said it yourself, right? You didn't need to wait, right? You can become a role model whenever you want, which is an interesting sort of, you know, proposition for yourself. But you also, like, you're sitting on different boards, and you still do, right? You now have your own company. What's next for you? I mean, this is 2 months in, right? We having this conversation because this is a super interesting jump. Is there some pro tips also? Like, if you look at sort of going forward, where do you see yourself in a couple of years, and also what kind of, I don't know, maybe analysis or what kind of tips would you like to give people that are in safe corporate positions but have other things to give?
Yeah, so 2 questions. So first of all, really right now my focus is on building my business, and the reason I left my job is so that I could focus on things that I absolutely love to do, that I'm passionate towards, and that's really being able to put people from different backgrounds who have different strengths in a room, and being able to facilitate a process where suddenly they have these epiphanies and aha moments, and they can see how they can actually implement the idea that they've been thinking about for a very long period of time, or look at an idea from a different angle, or finally crack the code on like a problem that they've been working on. And then help them tell those stories, and then help them put those ideas into execution and do it quicker and a lot faster in a leaner manner. So it's really about creating those experiences for more companies than I could have done just staying at my job. And in terms of tips for people, I think it's really about what has worked for me was starting to believe in yourself, developing a level of self-awareness, understanding that you already have a worth. No matter where you start, there's always something that you have someone else needs. There's either it's a skill, it's a knowledge, something that you're very good at, and often you don't know about it because it's so inherent in you. You've always had it. So it's maybe going on that journey and really figuring it out. Yeah. And asking your colleagues, asking your friends, like what is it that you see in me that really gets me to excel and succeed. And then trying to figure out ways that you can actually contribute more with that. How can you add more value to the world with that? And I think that's how it starts.
And then take the jump.
Then take the jump, yes.
Nada, these are short videos, short interviews, and it's about figuring out what people think and what sort of leaders in their field, what opinions they have about brands, their history, and also future going forward. That's really it. So guys, I'd like to thank Nada for being here. You can check her out at nadaahmed.com. I think you have a podcast now.
Yes, I've just launched a podcast. It's called Braving Innovation, and you can find it on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and they are aired live on LinkedIn. So just check it out and connect with me.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching.